Welcome to Quilting on the Side, the podcast for quilters who are building a business while juggling real life.
I'm Tori from Hey Tori, a quilter, past pattern designer and teacher, and now a digital marketing coach for quilting entrepreneurs.
And I'm Andi from True Blue Quilts, long arm quilter, pattern designer, and quilting instructor.
Between the two of us, we've taught workshops, launched programs, joined summits, and stayed up way too late trying to finish one more quilt binding.
On this show, we're sharing what's worked and what hasn't in our interviews from incredible guests, everyone from quilting solo business owners to CEOs.
So if you're running a quilting or creative business or dreaming about starting one, you'll find real talk, honest strategies, and a whole lot of support here.
So grab your notebook, grab your pen, and let's dive into another episode of Quilting on the Side. Welcome to this week's episode of Quilting on the Side, and I am very excited to introduce my friend Jessica to my friend Tori. I met Jessica at a retreat last year, and it's fabulous to have her on the show to tell us all about Jessica Steele Designs. So, Jessica, introduce yourself and tell us where you're coming from.
Right. Well, it's nice to meet you, Tori, and I'm so happy to be here with you guys. So my name's Jessica Steele, and like you said, I am the quilt pattern designer behind Jessica Steele Design. And my quilts are all sports related and inspired, so pretty easy to see in my designs, but I try to make them a little bit more modern is kind of where my focus is on that.
Okay, Jessica, tell us about your first quilt. How did you get started with this craft?
All right. So my very first quilt was back in 2018 when my niece was born. I was looking for something to do, something to make her. And my mom actually was a quilter, and she sewed all my clothes growing up, all my Halloween costumes. She was very crafty. And so she suggested, why don't you make her a quilt? And it's really interesting. It's always been something I've kind of been a little more resistant on. Like, my mom would always fold me into projects, and we'd start a sewing project together, and inevitably she'd finish it for me. Because I liked the idea of it, I just never followed through with it. So I don't know what it was. Maybe I was being in my 30s. I finally wanted to finish a project myself, but I did it, and it was a little Lone Star baby quilt from Amy Smart's blog, which we went to the retreat last year and where we met each other, and it was kind of a full circle moment to talk to her and be like, you were my first quilt, or I made my first quilt was one of your patterns. So yeah, so I think, like everybody says, once I made that little baby quilt, the rest is history. I got the quilting bug and never stopped.
Well, how did you take it from a hobby into a business?
Yeah. So to kind of go back a little bit, a lot of my professional background is in product development. So I went to school for apparel merchandising, got that degree. I also got my sports MBA, if that's a thing. But it's an MBA with a sports focus. So the sports thing has kind of always been lingering in the background. But then right after I got that sports MBA, I went to work for a footwear company called Payless Shoe Source. You may recognize the brand from back in the day. But I did athletic footwear in their athletic category for them for about 6 years. And then I also worked for Lee Jeans in their product development as well. So I kind of have always worked in kind of a product development mindset. And I had, after I made my first quilt, I had my girls, they're 6 and 4 now. And so and I think it was when my youngest was born, I was holding her for a nap on the couch, and I found Elizabeth Chappell's podcast of Craft to Career. It clicked, and I was like, oh my gosh, I could actually use my product development brain from the past and kind of transition that into the quilting world. And so I kind of looked into her course and ended up taking it and released my first pattern in spring of 23. So it's kind of how that all kind of trickled together.
Yeah. So was it intentional to keep your quilt designs focused on sports? And how did you decide on keeping so specific?
Yeah. So the sports thing has just been like something that's followed me my entire life. My entire life. I grew up, my great grandfather played collegiate sports and was a college coach. And my grandfather was a college football coach. My dad was a college football coach. So it kind of just has been something I've known my whole life. And then I played sports growing up and all that. Obviously the sports MBA. So it's been kind of a theme throughout my life. And I initially thought, because I had made my girls their own baby milestone quilts. So I kind of modified one design to make my first daughters, and then I kind of created my own design for my second. So I initially thought, oh, maybe, baby milestone quilts could be something that I do. And then it just kept coming in the back of my mind. It kept the sports theme just kept coming back. And one thing I did notice as I was starting out quilting is, there's a lot of ways you can make a sports themed quilt. You can take just a you know, regular quilt pattern and just use your sports team logoed fabric or colors, and that's an easy way to do it. There are sports designs out there already, but I couldn't ever quite find one that I felt like I could display in my home. To be something that would kind of fit in a more modern aesthetic, and kind of just fold into my decor instead of being so in your face sports. So that's kind of where it kind of came. I mean, the sports thing was just nagging me, and I was like, you know what? I can't. I always say I can't quit sports. So I was like, I'm gonna go with it, and it's kind of stuck. And I think a lot of people like it. I think it's kind of I hear a lot of feedback of like, "Oh, my grandson would love this," or a lot of kind of those like teenagers or young kids that are looking for a sports quilt that I don't want to say is like cool, but they they really like that modern design um, for their kids and grandkids. So,
I think it's a great niche because we tend to see questions in quilting groups are like, are there any quilt patterns that are good for men or for boys? And I think that um, your sports theme could kind of fit that as well as keep in a more modern feel of feminine sports quilts. So I feel like
hmm
it's a great combination of quilting and sports and also having an avenue for making men's quilts. So I think it's a great niche. It's really cool to see how you kind of created these designs and like I'm just looking at the ones behind you and a few that I saw on your site and they are so interesting. And there was one that you had on there that looked like I wanna call it an orange peel, like, it's what it looked like in my head, but it was, like, football related, but it
hmm
was more subtle, and it wasn't, like, screaming football like you said, it was a subtle, more modern design, and you can still kinda see the footballs in there, and my husband's a huge football fan, so I could totally see that on our table whenever, like, he's watching football, like, football season. We have a sign that he put up I don't know if it's up anymore, I don't think this house has it anymore, but the ones that we used to have we're military, so we move a lot, so all the houses, the decoration kind of churns. Uh, so one sign he used to put up was, "This marriage has been interrupted by football season." He would only stand it up, like, during football, and I
Yep.
could see me, like, when that sign comes up, pulling out the table runner and just being like, "Here you go, I'm supporting your your love
Yep.
of this sport."
Exactly. That was when my husband and I got married, we made a yeah, but he's a football fan too, so it was easy. And my dad was still coaching at the time, so it was definitely no fall weddings in our family. Otherwise, he's not going to be there. So, um, but yeah, we eked it in right at the beginning before I think he had to get a little permission slip to be gone from early practice for that season. Um, but yeah, that that's a very funny luckily, my husband and I agree on the football thing. The whole family just kinda interrupts for football season.
And people are so passionate, you know, like you said about their sports teams, and it ties back into how you were drawn to making milestone quilts because graduations, high school sports celebrations, all of those things, you can really personalize your designs for any conceivable color scheme out there and
Yep,
make it meaningful for the athlete or the family member or, you know, however you wanna
yep.
celebrate that. So,
Yeah. Yeah,
very
one thing I
smart.
try to do with my designs is, when I'm coming up with kind of the color placement is a lot of times most teams have at least 2 colors, right, that they identify there for themselves, so I like to have at least a 2-color option or maybe 3, to add in kind of a neutral there, but then another option that allows you to kind of play with the color a little bit more, like the hockey one behind me, there's just a black and white 2-color option, but then this one is the 4-color where you can kinda play around with the color arrangement to make it a little more interesting, or sometimes teams will have those accent colors in their colors that you can play around with in there, so it's always in the back of my mind when I'm designing these to
Yeah.
make sure that
So,
it works for that.
you said you got started with pattern design through, the Quilt Pattern Writers course that Quilters Candy offers, and she teaches Illustrator. Was that your first experience with computer design? Are there any other programs that you like?
Um, I did use EQ8, early on. I haven't used it as much, now that I'm kind of fully into Illustrator. It's funny, when I worked in back into Payless, we were using, Adobe products in that world as well. But I resisted it so hard. Like my poor we worked with a design team in New York. And I always had to call them up and be like, okay, how do I do this again in Illustrator? And so now I'm much better with my Illustrator after taking her course. But a little EQ8, I kind of did the start off in graph paper when I made my girls' quilts and stuff back then. So um but yeah, just EQ8 graph paper and now in mostly all in Illustrator.
So you've mentioned, your girls a couple of times, so I'm curious because I also have 2 kids. One's, how old are they now? 3 and 7. They're 3 and 7 now, so I find that they take a lot of time. So are you doing your business is it full-time on the side, and how are you squeezing it all in with having 2 kids?
Yeah, so this year is actually the first year, my youngest is in a full day pre-K program now. So it's like kind of I don't know what to do with my time a little bit now. It's nice, but prior to a month ago, um, my youngest did a little part-time thing. So I had a few hours here and there last week or last year. Um, but it's really nap times was where it was at initially, and then kind of we have a luckily my sewing space is in the basement, and so right outside where my space is kind of like the play area. So I was able to kind of do things where I could monitor like cutting or, uh, pressing or things like that where I could kind of keep an eye and kind of do things at the same time. But really it's just before I had actual time to work on it, just setting up like a 15-minute activity, and then getting what I could get done in those little times and reminding myself that someday I will have all the time in the world and to still enjoy the time that they're little, is kinda how I got through it. But now I'm like, I've got all the time in the world now until they get home from school.
I was curious if
Mhm.
it sounds like you're doing it full-time. Are you able to do your business full-time?
Yes, I am now doing full time, um, as of it's been about a month, so it's been fun, being able to, like, have this time to, like, know that I have the time too, um, and being able to sit down and, like, work on designs for more than 15 minutes at a time and without those small interruptions throughout the day. So it's really been nice to have, you know, I guess 7 hours a day. I think I'm at 7 hours a day-ish, 6.5.
Yeah, that's awesome. I was just gonna say that it's nice, uh, to really commit to giving yourself grace and doing what you can each season of life, knowing that it's not gonna be forever. So, um,
Right. Yeah,
very
and just do it knowing I can just if I as long as I'm putting in one foot in forward the other and just keeping it going in some way, no matter how much I'm getting done, it still will get there. Um, Try not to stress about that.
right. I was just thinking the same thing as I was scrolling through social media and seeing all, and you get in that comparison trap of, oh, they've had so much more success and blah, blah, blah. And why, if I would just do this or that. And yeah, you can't,
Yeah.
should, don't should all over yourself.
Right. Exactly. And I think one thing I did learn kinda along those lines with, social media and all that, I do have I'm more active on Instagram of all of them, but, after a while, I kinda realized that with the designs that I'm making, Pinterest is kind of is a better place for me to be, just with my designs being kind of more like search engine based. Like if you want to make a soccer quilt, you're not going to just hope that you scroll through Instagram and come across a soccer quilt design. So I really try to focus more on, search engine optimization and Pinterest, but still having a little bit of a presence on Instagram. I know I won't ever be this huge presence because I think sports is a very niche thing. And unless you have a kid in soccer or you're played soccer yourself, you're not really making a ton of soccer quilts at a time. Um, but yeah, so just kind of knowing where my lane is and kind of seeing what works for me has kind of helped me get out of those comparison things on the social media um, platforms. So
That is
that's been
so
helpful.
important. Yeah, that is so important. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, do you have any help with your business, or are you just a one-woman show?
It's just me. At this point in time, just me. I do use testers for my patterns and things. So um, I guess that's probably the only help I get. But yeah, the whole business is me at this point in time.
That's great. One of the other things I have noticed that you've been involved with over the last couple years are some pattern collaborations. Can you tell us a
hmm
little bit about how those got started and what success you're seeing with that?
Yeah. So the first one I ever did, I started it. It was for the Summer Olympics last summer. And obviously Olympics goes with the theme of sports. But I really wanted it to be something where it was kind of a collaboration from designers all over the world, because that's what the Olympics is bringing people together from all over the world. So the goal was to find a designer from 9 different countries represented, and I did it. I was so nervous that I couldn't find 9 countries, but so we had Spain and France and Serbia, and from Europe, we had Australia, Mexico, Thailand. Sandy from Thai Charm was in it. Mexico, Thailand, and Brazil. We had Brazil represented, I think, and then I was the United States. So that was really fun. I learned a lot. It was a lot of work to put that together, but from the design standpoint, all the designers I worked with were great. So that was easy working with them. But um, I think it was successful. I think we had at least a little over 2,000 people participated, and it was just the summer before the Olympics started. So I think we were finishing our tops as the opening ceremonies started. So it was kind of to get people prepared and excited for the Olympics. So that was really fun to do. I mean, I think there would be a few things I'd modify for the next time, but overall it went pretty smoothly. And then I was invited to do the nursery sampler this year with 8 other designers, and that one was a little more difficult just from coming up with my design because it was very, baby nursery oriented, which is kind of what I initially started doing designs for. But so I had to kind of come up with something that related to sports in a way. And so I came up with a toy basket. And what is every kid's first introduction to sports is throwing a ball and rolling a ball and bouncing a ball. And so that's kind of where my design came from that. So that's been fun. Uh, Fiona and Lindsay from the Quilting Corner and Mama Amy Quilt Co. have been kind of organizing that. So, and they've been really great about being great communicators and doing all that. So it's been easier on that end for me for this one. But I think we had maybe, I think definitely over 2,000 people participated again this time, maybe more. I can't quite remember the number on this one, but it's been a great just exposure and kind of way to build my email list and communicate with people about what's coming up and all that. So it's been fun too.
Do you think you'll participate in more of those in the future?
I think so. Initially, I wanted to continue doing the Olympic one. It probably will not happen for Winter Olympics because that's
Coming up
that's like
fast.
3 months away. um, so I think I'd like to at least continue doing the Summer Olympics one every year, or every 4 years, however that will take shape. Especially because 28 will be in LA this year, or the next
The next
Summer
round,
Olympics will
yeah.
be in LA. So that will be fun. But yeah, I think it'll, as long as it fits kind of what I'm doing, I think I'd love to continue participating in them.
So I have a question about
Mhm.
about like hobby versus business. Do you save part of the quilting for yourself as still a part of your hobby, or have you adopted other hobbies?
Um, I do. So I generally have like one random project going on. Um, I like to call them palette cleansers. So like, especially after the launch of a pattern release, I like to do just a non-thinking project for me. So I'm not thinking through what are the dimensions of this, how is this going to fit together. It's just following somebody else's directions to just kind of clear my mind, but also kind of maybe learn new techniques. I'm actually I did the 2024 temperature quilt with uh, Lindley from Plains and Pine, and that is like also a project it's cut and ready to go. I just have it up on my wall, kind of chipping away at it. So my goal is to be finished with it by the end of 25. But yeah, I always like to have just one project in between to kind of cleanse my palette, if you will, and kind of learn a new technique.
And
So
we see
what do you
the
have?
oh, I was curious
What do
about the
you have?
long arm.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask about the long arm. Do you looks like you long arm your own projects, is that right?
I do. I do have a long arm. And I think eventually now that I'm able to kind of do this part-time, I'm hoping to maybe add in some long arming to the business as well. But she's right behind me here. I don't have a name for her yet, but I think that will come once we get to know each other a little bit more. Maybe that will come together. But I have a Bernina, so we have my local quilt shop is a Bernina dealer. So and they've been great service with them. So very very happy, and I'm also that's also another learning curve. So sometimes in between projects I'll tackle something new on the long arm, which has been fun to kind of enhance those learning techniques in my brain.
Yeah, that's really cool. I was gonna ask, what you have coming up because, um, your hockey quilt was the latest release that I remember besides the samplers that you've been a part of. So what can we look forward to from Jessica Steele Designs?
Yeah. So, hockey was last spring, and I did a kind of a mini release of like a scrappy football in September. But that was also kind of in partnership with the Quilted Summit. For so a part of it was free. But basketball is on the docket next. I don't. My goal was to have it out before Christmas, but I think it might be an after Christmas release for early 2026. I do have a
March
free pattern.
Madness is a great theme.
I know. It'd be great right before March Madness. Get your basketball quilt ready to go. But actually, my very first pattern I released before my baseball pattern was a free basketball wall hanging. So it's just been like, I'm like, I need to do a full size basketball. Need to do full size basketball. So I think that will be coming next for sure. And then it's like almost how I've got all these ideas and they're kind of sketched out, but it's kind of whichever one comes together the best first. So there's a tennis one in there. I've got an idea for golf. There's been a lot of requests for lacrosse, um,
Interesting.
which is a less familiar sport for me. I never played lacrosse. It wasn't really around, and I grew up in Iowa mostly, so it wasn't a really popular sport here. So that one is one that's like always in the back of my head of like, how could we make this work, and like, what do I need to learn about lacrosse? So hopefully that will be coming soon. But yeah, definitely basketball is on the line next.
How fun. Fun, fun. Anything else, Tori?
Now I'm ready for rapid fire. You guys ready for rapid
Oh,
fire?
okay. Whew.
We
Hopefully I can
start
answer
off
these.
by asking all our guests, what color do you struggle with the most? Because we love hearing about everybody's favorite colors, but there are some of those shades that are just tough. So what have you found difficult?
Always feel like orange is I tend to gravitate towards like a peachy orange. Like I just can't get in away from a peachy orange or like anything um kind of more true orange. Um like it's funny, it's my youngest favorite color. So like I guess I better figure out orange.
Right?
Um
And I would think there's a lot of schools that have orange as
there
their
are.
shade, so you must be, forced to deal with
Yes.
it, especially with your basketball quilt coming up too.
I know. Well, and that's another challenge with basketball. I feel like all of my oranges I use are kind of like more of like in that peachy flavor of an orange. So it'll be interesting to see how I can kind of come up with some combinations there with the orange.
So do you prefer yardage or pre-cuts?
Yardage. Um I feel like I have more freedom with yardage. Especially in my designs.
Yeah, we see a lot of, negative space for those that are on YouTube and can see, the quilts behind Jessica that, it would be a little more difficult to get that effect
Yes.
with pre-cuts.
Yep. Yep.
So what is your favorite notion or a tool that you can recommend to folks?
Mm, it's a good question. This is gonna be really random, but, it's my ruler holder, my ruler handle. I feel like people probably know what that is, but it's like I have to have it on my long ruler. I feel like my cutting is more accurate. So it's just that, like, suction cup. I think you can get, like, a shower handle, too, to use for that, but I think that's probably, like, the one random thing that I use every time I cut yardage, so Um, I would recommend that. It's great. It keeps your fingers out of the way, but I also feel like it helps me have a better pressure on the center of the fabric while I'm cutting, so there's not as much slipping and everything on the ruler when I'm
That
doing
is
that.
a wonderful recommendation. I don't think we've had anyone recommend something like that. So we'll definitely get a
Good.
link for
Oh,
one of those
good.
products for people.
Yeah, I'm like ready to go search shower handles. I didn't realize that's what that was.
Yeah.
I've seen
I
them, but I
think
haven't like looked at them.
I can't remember. I think it might be clover. is the brand that I have. I can't remember what the brand was, but there is like an actual sewing company that has a product, but you can also use a suction cup shower handle if you can't find one.
That's good to know. So our next question is, who is inspiring you right now? And they don't have to be in the quilting world.
Oh, that's a good question. This is kind of quilting, yes, quilting related. Emily Van Hoff does all the 3D kind of quilting art. I just like can't stop looking at her stuff. And now she has her fabric uh lines out there too. I think she's with Moda now. So I just love her use of color and shape and her like art that she creates out of her quilting. Um I just can't stop looking at it.
Great. We'll have to look her up. What is your favorite part of having a quilt business?
Mm. Um my favorite part would be the flexibility to also be with my family the way that I want. I probably get a lot of that answer from other people, but um, really now that my girls are both in school, I'm able to work when they're in school, and then when they're home, I can be fully present now with them and have the flexibility to pick them up when they're sick. Um, and there's not other people per se depending on me to do my work that day. I can kind of rearrange my schedule how I need to accommodate those things. So the flexibility is great.
Yeah, I would say that is probably the number one reason people jump into
Yeah.
business for themselves is because they really want that flexibility, and it is wonderful to be present for your kids when they're young. So,
Yes.
Our last rapid fire question for you is, how many quilts are in the room with you right now?
Ooh, that's a good question. Including quilt tops.
if you want to count that high,
Okay. Okay. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 that I can see. There's a lot hanging in my closet over here too.
right?
A lot of finished quilt tops that I need to get quilted on the long arm. And then I also so we have 2 bedrooms in the basement that are my space. So my cutting room also has some, but I can't see those right now. That's kind of my main finished quilt storage area.
Great. Oh, that's been wonderful. So before we sign off, Jessica, tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, so my website is jessicasteeldesign.com. So everything's on there. Otherwise, Instagram is just Jessica Steele Design. I do have a Facebook page that kind of Instagram pushes to, which is also Jessica Steele Design. And then Pinterest and YouTube are also Jessica Steele Design.
So
Perfect.
anywhere you want to find her, that's
Yeah.
great.
And it's
Thanks so much.
I'm sorry, I just want to put Steele. There's an E on there.
Yes,
And we will
correct.
put that in the caption or in the show notes.
Perfect. Thanks, Tori.
All right. Anything else before we go?
This was fun. I love this. You guys are great. Should we do this again? No. Like,
Anytime.
this was just so
Uh,
fun to talk to you guys.
Another fabulous, inspirational episode. Jessica just has such fun ideas. What was your biggest takeaway, Tori?
I think my biggest takeaway is something I've been loving and researching lately is how she stated that Pinterest has been a really good social media platform for her because it's not technically social media; it's more of a search engine. And along those lines, how she's built up her list is using that combination of Pinterest, Instagram, and then collaborations, which we've talked about a lot on the podcast being a great way to to grow your list and grow your presence in the quilting world is to collaborate and find other like designers, other teachers, other long armers, whatever you do, finding others that complement what you do and offering something together. It's a great way to cross promote and build up your email list. So I think that's probably my biggest takeaway that I want to repeat for our our listeners is that it's great to collaborate and to find those social media platforms that really work for you. So Andy, what is your biggest takeaway?
My biggest takeaway is just how refreshing it is to when you talk to someone who just is solid in their identity, and Jessica loves sports. She's built her business around sports-themed quilts. You know, the story of reaching out to quilters around the world to make an Olympic-themed sampler was just so incredible. And it shows that you can definitely make money from your passion and just, lean into that identity, whatever is, makes your heart sing. Go follow your dreams is just so inspirational. And along those lines of collaborations, I want to remind our audience that you can find quilters to collaborate with if you join us on Patreon, because we are sharing ideas all the time and we love to help each other out. And so when you come into our paid Patreon community, you get those live Q&A sessions with Tori and I and the rest of our community, and you can really develop some good relationships that way. So we hope to see you on Patreon soon.
That's a wrap on today's conversation. We hope it gave you something real to take back to your business.
And if you liked this episode, please hit subscribe and leave us a review. It helps more quilters find the show and feel a little less alone on their entrepreneurial journey.
And if you want more support, from behind-the-scenes content to live chats, you'll find more in our Quilting on the Side community on Patreon. And as always, don't forget to do
a little quilting on the side.